Despero appears wanting to kill the Flash. He shows Barry a future where he causes Armageddon, destroying the planet. Barry removes his mask, attempting to convince him he could never turn on this world. Despero gives him 7 days to prove it. He tells Barry that a tragedy causes him to turn mad, with it beginning tomorrow. The following day, Barry is suspended from the CCPD for federal crimes. Then, Star Labs is shut down after a radiation leak. Back home, Barry mentions Joe to the horror of the team. He died 6 months ago. Turning to the news, he finds that he attacked people around the city, but doesn't remember a thing. Despero arrives to kill Barry once more, but the team help him escape as he goes to Black Lightning for help. Barry asks him to take away his powers so he can no longer hurt anyone, and have Despero leave him alone. Meanwhile, Iris looks into her father's death, believing Barry may not be going crazy. She asks Dion for help, discovering someone has tapped into the negative still force, changing the timeline and killing Joe. As Despero finds Barry, Dion helps him escape, with him arriving in 2031, finding Eobard Thawne married to Iris. On this Earth, Barry is the Reverse Flash and Thawne the Flash. He created a flashpoint, stealing Barry's life and killing him as a child. By midnight, Barry will cease to exist. Seeing Damien Darhk has been released, Barry seeks his help. Knowing something is up with his villainous friend, Darhk demands the truth. Barry tells him everything, convincing him to help. Returning home, Barry finds Joe alive and well, but Thawne soon arrives, asking Team Flash for help. Despero insists they let him perish as he will cease to exist back in the true timeline. Barry believes they can save him by removing his powers. Upon doing so, he's taken into Argus custody. Before disappearing, Darhk gifts Joe his time stone, believing him to need it one day. Bart and Nora Allen return to 2049, finding their Uncle Jay alive, but not everything is exactly the same just yet. Travelling back to 2013 to correct the timeline completely, they prevent Joe from getting shot, but just make things worse, causing the Royal Flush Gang to form earlier. Preventing a bombing and fixing the timeline, the siblings return home. Captain Kramer is frustrated with the Flash just dropping off criminals with no context, wanting a direct line to him. Meanwhile, Goldface breaks into the precinct, wanting to steal meta bullets. Barry helps Kramer control her powers, beating Goldface, revealing his identity to the captain, promising to work together. Iris experiences a weird time lapse, finding a strange green energy exuding from her. A man's burnt to death, with the perpetrator believed to be Jaco Birch. Jaco promises it's not him, however. Another is killed in the same way, with Team Flash finding evidence that Birch is innocent, but the true meta responsible is yet to be found. Iris meets with Dion, who's been trying to help her with her memory loss. She's experiencing a time sickness, with Dion leaving to find out more. Following another victim of the fire meta, Barry secures a sample of the fire, black in colour. Meanwhile, Iris and Sue track down a ghost meta in Coast City, Tinya. As Chester looks into the black flame, he believes it to be his father, with Cecile sensing great despair from the seemingly alive organism. The flame is feeding off of Chester's grief. It's the meta they're looking for. Dion reconvenes with Iris with some bad news. Something about her is causing time to fracture. Meanwhile, Frost is attacked by the black fire. Believing it to be hunting her for fuel, she asks her mother to help her as bait to catch the being. The plan doesn't work, however, with Caitlin arriving. Iris helps Tinya look for her mother, whilst Caitlin is less than happy with her mum allowing Frost to put herself in harm's way. Iris finds Tinya's mum, but at that moment she has an episode, seemingly killing her. Alone, the Blackfire communes with Caitlin, using the voice of her dead husband, Ronnie. With this encounter, she identifies that all the victims are connected to her, believing Ronnie is asking for her help to bring him back. However, Cecile also receives a message from him, being asked to end his suffering. Angered by seeing her mother disappear before her, Tinya attacks Iris, with her disappearing. Caitlin prevents Barry from killing Ronnie, saving him instead. Sue arrives later that night, telling Barry that Iris is gone. Meanwhile, Caitlin speaks with Ronnie, but all's not right. She's only made him stronger. It's not Ronnie, it's Deathstorm. Iris returns from the attack. The Still Force pulled her away for protection. Dion reveals the time sickness has infected him also, disappearing himself. Deathstorm attacks the team but concludes that Caitlin isn't ready to be his bride. As he leaves, the team work on a way to turn Frost into an anti-Deathstorm. They turn her into Hellfrost, facing the demon and absorbing his energy. With her vitals crashing, Caitlin injects her with cold fusion, but it doesn't work, and her body gives out. Team Flash mourn. After the funeral, Mark meets with Caitlin as they work on a way to bring the dead Frost back to life. At the Central City Citizen headquarters, Iris disappears again. Dion arrives, needing Barry's help to track her down in the Still Force. They find the particle he placed in her, but Dion absorbs it, leaving Barry behind. He also entraps Nora, with father and daughter having to work together to escape. Tracking a new villain, Barry is hit by a shockwave of gamma radiation, which quickens the aging process every time he uses his speed. The Flash overpowers this machine, reversing the process before checking in on Caitlin. He finds her lab, destroying the place upon discovering what she plans to do. Allegra works on a story uncovering the doings of the Aranyas with Lydia's help. The Aranyas attack, forcing Allegra to reveal her identity. Meanwhile, the Flash confronts a new speedster, Mina, whose speed is temporary, offering to mentor her. He meets with her to look over the tech she used to generate her speed, meeting the lead scientist, Eobard Thawne. However, he doesn't seem to remember anything about the Flash. Barry checks that he's still at Argus, meaning this version is from another timeline, from Flashpoint. He discovers that Mina has been tapping into the negative Speed Force. Eventually, she's overwhelmed, with it taking control. Eobard talks her down, however, with the speed wearing off. Mark contacts Caitlin again, showing her another way of bringing Frost back, as the imprisoned Thawne is approached by Dion. Iris arrives in 2049 with Nora and Bart as Dion ages Thawne to death. The negative forces are confronted by Barry, Mina, and a powered-up good Eobard. As Barry throws his lightning at them, Dion transports Iris from 2049 to right in front of them, taking the full force of Barry's lightning. She's killed, evaporating into Still Force energy and being absorbed by Eobard. With the negative forces gone, he transforms into the evil Thawne, resurrected. The negative forces brought him back as they are too weak without a fourth member. Meanwhile, Iris finds herself face to face with Damien Dark. He explains that Iris isn't meant to be dead, hence his time stone spared her. Cecile hears Bashir call out to her, bringing him and the other forces back. They join with Barry, giving him an upgrade, ready to face Thawne. He removes Reverse Flash from the timeline for good and reunites Tinya with her mum. Meanwhile, Mark and Caitlin's experiment goes wrong, with a new entity arriving in Frost's place.